Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen show where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 163, Demystifying Zoho, recorded on Friday, September 10th, 2021 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
As always, we'll start with our events. We've got an upcoming webinar on Zoho PageSense. This is going to be on September 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And as always, if you head over to zenatta.com/events, you can see all the upcoming events. You know, it's been kind of slow in the events world this summer, so I'm adding in some other events that I think might be useful. Twilio's got one coming up on the rising cost of online fraud, just some other stuff. So as we find things that I think might be interested, we're throwing them in as well. But we've also got how to achieve a no spam inbox and then master your inventory management. Actually, I'm going to be doing a webinar at some time this month with John Mark Bantock. It's coming up soon. I'll have to get that added in here as well. Anyway, good events. You can find them over at zenatta.com/events. And with that, let's get into the news. So we've got a brand new dashboard component called Zone Analytics or Zone Analysis. This is in Zoho CRM. And it's one of those visualizations, Tyler, that I just, I look at them. I'm not sure what to do with them. Anyway, it's nice, though, I guess, if you're into this kind of thing. I think you use this in analytics at all? I know that this is in
sometimes
CRM now, but
yeah, sometimes it's an interesting way to compare like two aggregate values, meaning like a count versus a sum or a count of one thing versus a count of another. So the example that they did here is if you wanted to do like your ROI on a particular campaign, you might want to look at like the monetary ROI in terms of like a sum of the amount of closed deals versus the count of those deals to kind of place things onto a grid to see, what's your highest volume, what's your highest total ROI. See if you find any really good ones. An example here, if you're watching us on video, is you might look and see, okay, the webinar campaign had a really high ROI with not as many records. So you might find that maybe your sell through for those types of leads is a little bit better versus something like AdWords has a really high ROI, but also much higher volume. So you're getting more leads, but maybe not as highly converting of leads. So it's a good way if you have like two different aggregate values, right? An average versus a sum versus a count. It can be a nice way to plot them on a grid like this.
That's kind of similar to me. It reminds me of like a Gartner Magic Quadrant, right?
Kind of, yeah.
That it's very, very, very similar, but without the quadrant. All right. And then moving on with the news, Zoho Projects is adding disclaimers to the portal. We were discussing this before the show. This seems to me to be, it must have been just a feature request for a specific client that needed this. But, you can now, when someone's going to go into your portal, you can say, this contains sensitive content, don't share with others, that kind of thing. Anyway, a nice little feature for the Zoho Projects portal. See any use for this?
Yeah, I could imagine. I know maybe if you were using Zoho Projects to build some blueprints for something, right? Or you're doing some design work that you didn't want anyone to bring with them, especially if you're inviting some client or external users, might be nice just to throw a little disclaimer up that you have a log that everyone who's using this has been told that it's private. Definitely one of those things, the majority of people probably don't need it. But if you do, it's really nice to have.
All righty. And then moving on, Zoho Writer got a bunch of interesting little editing tool updates. So you now can actually customize your overall web view. So if you're using Zoho Writer, normally you use it where it's page view. So you understand every single one of your page breaks, and you as you're scrolling through, where things are going to break. But you can actually edit in web view, which is just one continuous run. So maybe you're building a writer document that you want to just go ahead and post to the web. This is going to give you an idea of what that's going to look like. So you can scale it, and you'll see exactly what it's looking like. And then another one we were talking about before the show, you can now link documents from OrgDrive directly to a document that you're working on. I got a feeling though, if you're sharing a web view document, which is what they're talking about above, you would actually have to, anything you're linking, you're going to have to adjust those sharing permissions, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I kind of would wonder, we'll want to play with this one a little once it actually goes live to see if there's some options there around getting like a fully external share link versus one with some permissions. But definitely nice. I mean, in this case here, they're using an example of, maybe you're writing a guide on some best practice for formatting, right? And you just want to link out to a big breakdown without having to put the whole thing into the writer document. Maybe you have a big, grammar exceptions document and you just want to link that. So nice to have. I mean, there's lots of different use cases for this. Link a quote that's over in Work Drive, link your price sheet that's sitting over there. So really nice to just tie those together.
Yeah. Especially for internal documents that everybody's got access to. I can see a lot of value in that. And now you can name your formula fields and reuse them across the document. Useful.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got to look here. So they're saying, is it 200, 200, or 200, TWO100 spelled out? They're saying that in this case, it would be 200. I don't know. I think when you write a document.
I always thought the rule is if it's less than 10, you write it out. And if it's more than 10, use the number.
Is that the rule?
I don't know. I feel like I was taught that at some point in my previous life in high school.
The general rule is that all numbers below 10 are to be written out completely, and anything above 10 should stay in numeral form. But as with all great rules, there are always exceptions. Interesting. That must be a new rule because, man, we had to spell it out. You could never get away with ever doing that. Of course, that was back in the early 1800s, so things have changed on grammar style and all that. All right, and then let us move on with the news here. We have got Zoho Desk Webhook callback times reduced, and you're pretty happy about this.
Yeah, I don't know if happy. I'm neutral on this. It's one of those things that it really is just a performance thing on Zoho's side. Basically, what this is referencing is if you had a function running inside of Desk that maybe when a certain ticket type is closed, you want to ping a webhook over to some third-party system and send some data there. Generally, whenever you hit a webhook endpoint, it will respond saying, success, failure, why it failed if it did. And that would be the webhook's callback, is kind of letting Desk and your function know what happened. And oftentimes you'll build in rules that say, if this webhook returns an error, then do these other things, right? Maybe email someone saying, hey, this failed for some reason, please add it manually. And previously inside a Desk, they're waiting up to 10 seconds for a callback to happen. And they've reduced that down to 5. From my experience, you would almost never even need 5 seconds. If something is waiting more than 5 seconds to respond, you could just call that a failure. Unless, you knew you were working with a system that was really slow. So this is probably just a performance update for them, just get more things out of cache quickly and clear out some functions. So I don't see it as something that's probably going to impact anyone negatively.
Yeah, I mean, the fact they're working on this though gives me some hope. I mean, to me, when you talk about actually bringing data in, the biggest problem we see with Desk right now is the Desk CRM connection and the time it takes for contacts to make it from one to the other. Sometimes it's very quick, minute or so, which is quick for Zoho, and sometimes it's not. That's something that I'd love to see them work on as well.
Yeah,
that
and
can cause all kinds of problems.
This seems in line that, or with an update they made about 2 weeks ago, is when Jordan and I were doing the show together, where they've rolled out automatic ticket archiving. And the main reason that they started archiving the tickets is that it lets them move it into a separate database, which lets your primary workspace in Desk run faster. So it seems like they're making a couple different updates here just to improve like the backend performance, really things that are very rarely going to actually affect your workflow in Desk, but that just allow them to optimize a bit, which is always nice.
I think they'll ever move to a unified database. I mean, that would just be virtually impossible. One database across all Zoho applications. I mean, it wouldn't be, right? It would just be one massive database. And depending on what you own, you would only be accessing certain parts of it. But that is a ground up rewrite of the entire application.
Yeah.
It's certainly solve a whole lot of problems
It would.
across the board. All right. And then moving on, Zoho Books has got some updates here for September. You can now save custom reports,
Thank
which
goodness.
is really nice.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. One of the things about Zoho Books is the reporting is okay in Zoho Books, but the ability to save these, I think, is big. I do think, though, that virtually in 80% of the instances that we know, if you really want to do some really deep reporting, most people want to move out of the stock reports in Zoho Books anyway, and they want to push them up to analytics. But as for down and dirty stuff, it's good.
Yeah. The big one for this is maybe you just want to look at like paid invoices this month, but the default view for paid invoices is this year. So every time you pull up that report in Books, you have to change the date filter again, where now you can just save that as a new version of the report. So for those like quick grab and go reports inside of Books, it's a nice quality of life update.
And now they have a customer advance account, which is super nice. So if you get an excess payment from your customer, you now can put it in, you can set up an advance account where it's going to sit in there. It used to just kind of be an overage that would sit on whatever invoice they paid at the end, and you would have an overpayment on that
applied
invoice
as a credit sometimes.
So this is kind of a nice little thing there. And when you reconcile your account, you can now print out the details, which I didn't know you couldn't do in the past. So, but this is kind of nice to have, honestly. I find. I with whether it's QuickBooks, Zoho Books, whenever you're doing any of the online books, the reconciliation part is so seamless normally across the board that I hardly ever do it, and I need to probably do it more often. But you can see if things balance when you're in there, right? The amount in Zoho Books, the amount in the accounts, and if everything's balanced, you're pretty sure you're balanced. But a lot of companies, you've got to print this stuff out, you've got to have it. So
yeah. I will say the only little oddball thing with the reconciliation is that when you pull a reconciliation from a certain day, let's say you want to do day by day reconciliation, there's not really any rhyme or reason to how they're sorted on that page. Like they're not sorted by like payment ID, payment amount, customer, exact time of day. So that can be a little bit tricky sometimes inside of the reconciliation tool. You can make it work. For one client, we actually, and if anyone is stuck on this that's listening, it's not pretty, but it's a way to fix it. If you go ahead and just copy the whole reconciliation table, you can paste it into Excel and then line it up that way. So there are a couple little workarounds to it, but it is properly formatted if you did need to pull it out and line it up yourself with some payment IDs or things like that.
Well, then you had your own way to print it. Just copy and paste it into Excel. Just working in the past.
Yeah, when in doubt, give that a try, because if a table is formatted properly on the page, it should go in no problem.
And for our India listeners, you can now associate PAN to contacts. I'm not sure what that is. Do you know?
I do not.
No, I do not either. And then Zoho Books Windows app got some updates. It's kind of interesting to me because the Mac app is really just an application that is doing nothing more than pulling in a web page. The Windows app must actually be an app unto itself. If they're actually, you can apply taxes automatically on transactions by configuring tax rules. I didn't realize you actually had two separate development timelines going on there, little interesting. So some tweaks to the Windows application as well. And then if you are using Zoho People, they have teamed up with Vantage Circle, and this allows you to reward employees. For those of you who aren't familiar, these are things where your employees earn points over a period of time. And with those points that they earn, they can, go ahead and get Amazon gift cards, like you're watching us on the screen, or a gift card for a restaurant or whatever, purchase any items that you want. So these are super nice kind of engagement things. Employees can be rewarded for various things and get actually real goods and services. So this is now fully integrated into Zoho People.
Why not?
Why not? Should we do it? Should we put this out?
Let's try. We'd have to start using Zoho People.
We have Zoho People. It's set up. It's there. But Yeah, it's interesting. So, all righty then. And then let us move along to the Zoho Marketplace. This is kind of interesting. We always talk about the Zoho Marketplace, and we're always, every time they tell us what's new in the Zoho Marketplace, I guess they're saying this is kind of different. It's what's new. So that's updated is new.
Then down there, it says, here's a list of extensions released in August 2021. But I am quite confident Twilio SMS for Zoho CRM has been there for quite a while now.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely none of that. This is what we're looking at here on the page is true. So you have to kind of dig through these because the QuickBooks integration has been there. You kind of have to go through. We did have to highlight one, and it kind of ties into the whole people thing, but some enterprising who did this. This is Siege Technology Solutions has come up with Spin the Wheel for Zoho CRM, which is pretty cool, Tyler. You basically can reward people for completing tasks and doing things in the CRM. And if they do such, well, they get to spin the wheel and win some prizes.
Looks like it basically adds a custom module here where you can define the different prizes that you want to list on the wheel. And then once you list them and people actually go ahead and spin it, then they have the opportunity to win anything from a NA-A9, like in their example here, to a gift card, to a car, or even a house. I don't know who's got the margin to give out houses, but if you do, you can do that with this tool. We want to highlight this one just because we thought it was pretty funny, and it's gotten some decent reviews so far. So if you're looking for something kind of off the wall to play around with and motivate your team, this might be an interesting one to check out.
Yeah, and this lucky person won a new car. It's fantastic. So yeah, it's the slick little, I love what they come up with sometimes in the marketplace, some interesting stuff. That's just one is just so off the wall that we wanted to highlight it there. So fairly nice. And then I don't know, I went through, I spent a lot of time in the Zoho marketplace because I'm always looking for the application of the week, or our pick of the week. So I'm constantly sorting through it. Honestly, in the marketplace, if you go Zoho app by Zoho app and then sort on newest application, that actually does work. That'll bring up what's new. And you kind of got to dig around in there because, with the advent of Catalyst, people are just pushing so many different marketplace applications out that you can find them. If you go in and just do a search for what you're looking for, you'll have to find it. But the level of quality is just all over the place. So it's usually a little testing. You're going to kind of have to go through and maybe install one or two or three of them that are hopefully accomplishing what you're looking for. But usually you can find it there. And some of them are actually really, really, really good. So worth taking a look at. All righty. And then moving on here with the news, we have some Backstage updates, Tyler, for 2021. What do you make?
And it looks like some of these we probably covered here. I know they mentioned being able to sell to your expos and things like that. A couple that we didn't, that may be new. I know the one that you kind of mentioned here, that you're able to now break out a Backstage event into some networking tables. These, I think, would normally be called a breakout room, but it's the ability to just create different little subgroups within your event, let people jump into those or group them up randomly, and let them do a little bit of more small group networking at your event.
Yeah. And then some minor updates, and I think we've got them all covered, but Backstage, man, it just continues to roll right along. The team is really hard at work constantly. And then a really cool one here is Zoho Sign has made some interesting improvements. And we've talked about this. Zoho Sign sits over in our maybe list. And the reason I normally put it in the maybe list was just because of kind of user permissions and things like that. But now that you look at this, these are some pretty nice updates to what they're saying is navigate regional regulatory landscapes. Basically, what constitutes a valid digital e-signature? And every region has different rules around that. And so they're trying to help with that. So they're doing qualified electronic signatures for the EU. They're actually using a third-party service for this. And so you will have to spend some more API credits, or what are they calling them now? Zoho Sign credits, right? Because they're lumping them all into one. You have to spend some more Zoho Sign credits.
Which, by the way, you can't buy ad hoc yet.
No.
So with the previous sign credits for the API, you could just buy them through the user interface. But so far, they've not rolled that out quite yet for the new credits. So if you're listening, Zoho Sign team, please do that.
I was unaware of that. I think I got a last purchase in for one of our clients. Must have been just before this total overall changeover. So did they do a conversion on that though? So if you had...
No, the old credits are still there and you can still buy them the last time I checked. It's just the new ones are also there, but can't be purchased through the user interface. So
if you bought the old 50-cent credit, they're not turning that into 5 credits? Because I think that's how they were doing it, right?
Not yet. I think that's in the cards that they're going to, but they've not fully pulled the ripcord yet.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there were all sorts of different use cases, and they decided rather than it just being 50 cents every time you used it, basically what we're going to do is we're going to break it. Were they in 10-cent increments now?
Basically 10-cent increments, yeah.
10-cent increments. So maybe something will cost you 1 credit, something will cost you 2 or 3. The standard API call was 50 cents. It's still 5 credits. So it really didn't change from a pricing basis, but they got a little more granular, which is helpful. So, and this is going to be another one of those things that will actually pull some credits. So if you're actually using a qualified electronic signature and using one of the third-party providers, and they're going to offer some others, then you'll be paying for it. And eSign for India, as defined by the CCA, which is the certifying authority of India. Basically, they have got some things in here that will make you legitimate if you're signing in India. It'll be a recognized digital signature. And then one more thing here is if you are using a USB token for your digital signatures, there is one that is recognized. It's Microsoft. You go to the Microsoft Store and you basically install this authorized USB token. It's kind of like proving you're you. Of course, I'm not sure. I guess anybody could get a hold of that USB stick. Anyway, when you go ahead and you insert that in, it's going to go ahead and recognize that automatically inside of Zoho Sign and allow you to do that. Time stamping, another one. And then I think one we both got comes up all the time, and I'm kind of happy to see this, which is print and physically sign and upload.
Yes, if you do still have the use case where you do need to physically sign, or maybe you're working with a client that prefers to do things physically, you can now still manage that workflow all through Zoho Sign and send it out to them. And it would basically just give them an interface to download it, physically sign it, scan it back, and upload it, but all still managed within the same Zoho Sign workflow, which is great because previously, if someone did need a physical signature, you'd kind of have to bust it out of Zoho Sign completely, right? And send them a physical PDF document. They do it, you bring it back and upload it. But this is much, much better.
Yeah, it was problematic. I would say at least once a month, one of our clients will download it, put a wet signature on it, and then scan it, and then send me an email saying we're good to go, which breaks our process. And you actually can't go into Zoho Sign and mark it as signed.
Yep.
It's not something
makes
you
sense.
can do.
It would make sense.
Right.
You can't do it, right? But then when you need to do it physical, it kind of just falls out of that workflow completely.
Yeah. So you have to expire it or delete it, but you don't really want to delete it. So anyway, very, very nice here. I'm happy to see that added in. All right. And with that, Tyler, that takes us to our implementation of the week. What do we got?
Yes, we have kind of a fun one this week built out of SalesIQ using their new Zobot codeless bot builder. And basically, this was a quick little integration from that bot over to Slack or Cliq to link users to different inbound chats that are coming in. And basically, the use case here is that, a Zobot is a great way to engage people on the site proactively, and it's definitely going to result in you getting more leads into the CRM, getting more customer information, and increasing the engagement. But the problem that generally comes up is that organizations don't want their sales team to be kind of like tethered to SalesIQ, especially when, in this case, a bot can actually answer a lot of people's questions for them and reduce the amount of time that people have to be sitting in that application. So basically what we did here is inside of the bot builder, we can actually post a webhook if they reach a certain point. And so with this bot, we kind of built it to be primarily informational. So like if you were to ask the bot about integrations, it's going to link you over to their, integrations page, right? But after a lot of these questions get asked and you link them to the new page, it'll follow up and ask, oh, do you have a more detailed question or more specific question that this page doesn't answer? And once they type in response to that and submit it, we actually put them in a queue to connect to an operator. And then we post a webhook that is used to create a link inside of a Cliq channel or a Slack channel that says, new chat request from this person. Here's their message. And here's a link to go and pick this chat up inside of SalesIQ. So in essence, it's just kind of a way to allow your sales reps to efficiently get into SalesIQ and connect to people without having to have it open all day. Because having it open can be kind of a pain, right? If you're not actually actively in there, but you just want to be in there for certain types of chats.
Yeah. Very, very nice. And we'll take I've got a question right now. So the person wants to remain anonymous in the chat, but they say they really like hearing about our implementation of the week, but they're wondering if what's supposed to be the takeaway. Is it intended to highlight something cool or more? And if you like this integration, reach out to us and we'll provide the service. It's interesting you bring that up because Tyler and I have been talking about this kind of a lot lately as to what we should do with these implementations. Honestly, it's really just to highlight something cool. We'd be lying if we said, though, that it didn't lead to somebody actually giving us business, right? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes someone will say, my gosh, I want that implemented. Would you please do it? But we've really been digging into this a lot lately, and we're considering for next year kind of rolling out something where we go really in depth into these. Probably, though, will just be private for people who subscribe to our support services or are clients of ours or want to subscribe to a private channel, because the amount of time and effort it will take. Because if you understand, when we do something like this, we can't really just go use that client account and, do it because it's built for them. So we have to go into a whole separate instance, build out the entire implementation.
Kind of generalize it too. Because elements of this are very specific, and any of these implementations are always really specific to a client account. But we try to share the core concepts, because what we found with Zoho is that there's so much that you can customize, so much that you can automate, that it can be kind of confusing for a user who doesn't spend all day staring at workflows and staring at deluge code like we do. So we try to share some of these just to highlight things that you can do and problems that maybe a lot of people have that haven't really been able to find what would be a suitable solution for it.
But we are considering doing a rather detailed overview of this, where we would even share deluge code and all of that kind of stuff, so that, it would basically, but we're going to gate it. I will tell you that, because the amount of work and time and effort that's there. So it's something, but I will tell you, normally it's just to highlight something cool that our team did, because we're up to, 15 people now, Tyler.
15 people.
And, we have our team meeting. Matter of fact, we do it every Friday. This is always recorded on Friday. Friday is our day where we basically, as a company, we do the show, and then we kind of have a little management meeting, and then we go into our team meeting, and everybody just talks about the cool stuff they did. And because we're fortunate and have some really great clients and are able to do some cool stuff, it's kind of like, man, we should share this with people, because I think a lot of the stuff we didn't even know was possible sometimes, right, Tyler? Mm-hmm. It's like, holy shamoly, who knew you could do this kind of thing, That's what our little wheel of fortune should be. When someone does the coolest, craziest thing we've ever seen, we'll let them spin
a wheel.
They get to spin the wheel. So I don't know, but it is something internally. We feel like we produce really, really high quality content. We throw it out there on the YouTube channel all the time, and it's kind of on our website and it's everywhere. And I think we just want to share this stuff. Yeah, it's great that it leads to business. I think it highlights our capabilities, but I do think we're probably going to put something together where we're going to make this more accessible to the masses out there. Because quite frankly, a lot of our clients are highly capable, right? It's just kind of a time kind of thing for them, right? I mean, I know we have a couple clients where, they have just huge development teams. They just don't have the time, right? And they don't want to even take that little extra time to learn. So becomes kind of nice. So I don't know. But thank you for the question, Anonymous. All right. And that moves on to this week's reads. I've been staying away from HubSpot for a while, but man, they have back-to-back reads today. Tyler, that were just fantastic.
Mhm.
So, which social media channels see the most ROI? This is a 10-minute read from Carolyn Forsey, and super nice. But basically, you would kind of, as you would expect, and they didn't really break this down B2B, B2C, that kind of stuff. It's just kind of an overall polling across. I don't even think they have to poll, right? It's HubSpot. So they can go in and they can know exactly what's happening. So across HubSpot's, whatever they're channeling in here, Facebook kind of crushes it with 40%, Instagram about 30%, LinkedIn looks like it's about 15%, YouTube about 10%, Twitter 10%, and then Snapchat looks like it's in the low digits. Kind of an interesting look across this entire thing. I honestly think if you were to take every bit of B2C out of this, Facebook and Instagram would move and Twitter would drop down, and probably LinkedIn and YouTube might be up at the top. I don't know. Take a look at that.
And the sleeping bear that isn't notated here because it's not a social media is, of course, Google Ads, right? If you're doing pay-per-click, of course, that should probably be number one, and then following the rest of these down the line. Again, depending on if you're more of a B2B or B2C seller.
Yeah. But this really does, strike home, especially with, we do manage social media for some of our clients, and our B2C clients, man, it's Facebook and Instagram. They crush it. So a nice little read. It's long, it's 10 minutes. They go into extreme detail on each one of the services, by the way. So we're taking a look at that article. And then they've got another article, which is 30 ways to drive website traffic. Again, this is something we just do a ton of. And this was a survey research done by the Content Marketing Institute. And they kind of go through the whole thing, which is content creation, topic X. This is a 17-minute read, guys. But every single thing they have on here is just spot on. I mean, this is really what it takes. I can tell you, when we're doing it for our clients, the amount of time just in discovery and building all of these things out and figuring it all out. But this great way, nice article, kind of covers everything you need to do. It was interesting. We were having dinner last night with a friend who's on a bank, and they're basically interested in starting off an entire new social media channel. And he was asking, what's the key? What's the key to blogs? What's the key to YouTube? And I think for us, Tyler, it's absolute relevant content on an extremely consistent basis, right?
Relevant and useful.
Relevant, useful, and then SEOing the living heck out of it across the board. I mean, people don't understand. You go into YouTube, if you look at our YouTube stuff, we basically there's a blog underneath there, right? And the purpose, I mean, there's so much information because that's all for search and that's all SEO. And then we'll take that, then you put it on the website, and then just all the amount of time and effort that it has to go in to putting this together. But man, does it pay off in spades.
It totally can. I mean, the example that I'll often use to why, and this is kind of specific for YouTube SEO, which is its own kind of dark art. But, things like Google searches, if you were to search Google for like Zoho projects webinar, Zoho desk webinar, because the SEO on our videos, they show up in Google's little video, YouTube tie-in for a Google search. So there's a lot of these kind of network effects that you get by properly optimizing SEO.
There are. So, and just, also being consistent is probably the biggest thing you can possibly do. I don't know anything else other than being consistent. Hey, and if you're interested in that, we're going to throw in an ad here for ourselves. Just head over to zenatta.com/web-services. And we'll help you with all of this. Anyway, very, very.
And there's good. Our plug.
There was our plug, our shameless plug. All right. And let's move on to what's new over at zenatta.com. We got a great case study, Aviem International. Love these guys. Thank you so much. For the longest time, we didn't collect these, but we're putting out case studies every couple of weeks now. So if you want to read what we're doing for other clients, you can check over there. And then we're returning back to our long form articles here. So how contract lifecycle management can be improved through software. So Nice article, goes through the whole thing. Zoho just released Zoho Contracts. This kind of ties into that. Zoho Contracts is an entire life cycle management tool. And we spent a bit of time with it, a very good one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of interest, a lot of people talking about this lately. So this is really just talking about what is contract lifecycle management? Why do you need it? And it's got super great integration with Zoho Sign, by the way. So
yep. And I think one thing that's interesting here, especially when it comes to Zoho Contracts, something that you kind of shared with me after playing with it, is that it is for contracts much more than it is for proposals, right? So this is for, your kind of more hardcore contracted documents rather than kind of like a more generalized scope of work with some goals and some kind of prettiness to it. This is more for like, true contracts, pulling in predefined clauses, right? And sending them out that way.
It truly is. And it's one of those things where it's text-based only. So that just consider that. You're not going to do a proposal because it's basically 100% text, especially in all the clauses that you're going to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
But man, they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contracts and clauses pre-built into this thing. This was, I don't know what law firm they paid to do it, but man, there's great starting templates in there. Now,
yeah, I can imagine too. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you got a corporate lawyer, they'll tear it apart because they're never satisfied with anything. But
yeah, I could imagine as like maybe a solopreneur or younger company, you might not have the budget to go and hire a corporate lawyer to write a bunch of this stuff up for you. You could even take it as a baseline and reduce the cost of talking to a lawyer to get everything cleared up. So it's a lot of value that you get just out of those templates.
Oh, absolutely. All righty. So let us move on to the pick of the week. So I actually have been using this. It seems like a lot lately. I've been getting sent NDAs through email. There are a couple partners that were actually some Zoho partners we're working with. And one of them just sent me, for some reason, they just sent me a document as a PDF. This is Zoho Sign email extension. And man, they've got this email extension for virtually any mail platform you want. But I wanted to highlight kind of the top three: Zoho Mail, Gmail, and Office 365. If you're not familiar with it, it basically is when you're reading an email, if you open this extension, it looks at any of the attachments. It says, what attachment do you want to send for Zoho Sign? It then looks at all of the people that are in the email chain, and it says, which ones of these, and you add those people into whether they're signers or whether or not they receive a copy. You do all of that, and then it pops it into Zoho Sign and opens it right up there, and everything's pretty much laid out. You can drag and drop any fields you want and go ahead and send it off. It's just a slick way. The time-saving steps in this, no matter what version you're using, is it's going to pull the document in, pull the signers in, pull the receivers in, and just kind of do all that automated. So a great little extension. I don't think we've ever talked about it before.
No, I don't think so. Because really the alternate workflow here, if you don't have this, is I download the PDF, I bring it over to Zoho Sign, I upload it, I manually copy all the recipients over, right? And so from here, I'm just saying this attachment, send it out, right? Drag and drop who needs to sign where.
Yeah, that's slick. And it's pretty much across all of them a very, very nice extension. So, and it's in the various stores. So it's going to be in the Microsoft store. It's going to be in the Google store. Yeah. And of course the marketplace. It's kind of integrated directly into Zoho Mail, but worth taking a look at. All right. And that brings us to our tip of the week. So it's on me this time, Tyler. I had to produce the 4 for this month. So kind of randomized. The next 3 are all some really interesting, some kind of different CRM stuff that we haven't covered for a while. But this tip of the week is, which Zoho bundle is right for you? We kind of talked about this. I guess we probably could have done an entire webinar on this, but instead I just did a little 8-minute video where I completely kind of flew through all of these and why you need them and what the pricing differences are and the confusion around pricing. Which is questions we often get. So if you've ever wondered what bundle is right for you, you can just head over to youtube.com/Zenatta and check out all of our videos. And of course, the most recent one here is which one is right for you. And of course, everything is there. So,
And that'll just be another one of our videos in our never-ending goal to demystify Zoho's product options here. We get asked a lot about these types of questions because there's so much overlap and pricing differences that hopefully this will be helpful if you're kind of in that stage where you're deciding, hey, should I upgrade to one of these? Or if you're just getting started with Zoho, would one of these be the right place for me to enter?
Yeah, it's nuts. As a matter of fact, it gets a little more complicated now that you've got the Finance Plus suite, but they've basically taken finance for a very limited solopreneur. It's free. Mm-hmm. So you've got these really weird kind of things here. Zoho One gets tricky though, and I didn't mention it in the video. And someone asked me a question once they saw this, where they were saying, so, hey, I've got Zoho One for me, but I'm just going to go ahead and now I'm going to get remote leave for all my other people. It's not going to work. Once you have Zoho One, you break. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's in Zoho One or everybody's not in Zoho One. So it's one of those, that's the one you can kind of break all these out separately, bit by bit, or you can buy them and do separate applications. But once you go Zoho One, it's kind of that all-in point at that point in time. So that is kind of the one caveat with Zoho One that breaks things up. All right, buddy. I think that is going to be a wrap. If you have any questions or comments, please head over to Zenatta.com, click on Contact Us, and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.